Here we go. Welcome to Double Dribble Bucks. This is Seth Peterson. With me, as always, is my good friend Brett Sand. How's it going tonight, Brett?
It's going pretty good, Seth. How about you?
Not too bad. Could be better. After these first two Bucks games against the Pacers, tied 1-1. Could be worse. That's for sure. But yeah, not feeling great after that game too. And maybe should just give a disclaimer to the thousands of listeners out there. You might hear your first swear word possibly in this podcast. I can't make any promises. I did pour a whiskey for tonight, and I already had a beer, so who knows what's going to happen. Yeah, might get feisty. We'll see. We'll see how into it we get here. But let's just start off with your reaction. First two games against the Pacers. Where are you at with it?
All right. Well, obviously game one was fantastic. They were well prepared. Dame took the team on his back and was like, let me do what I need to do. And he did, and absolute dominating performance. The crowd seemed behind it. The team seemed behind it. Everything just was clicking. There were some things that, like, once you got to game two, you realized in game one, but in the moment, game one was perfect. It was, there was an article about how Doc had the young players act like the Pacers team, just, run fast, run hard, try to beat the veterans, don't give them any breaks, just play. And Brooke was even, commenting that, they would make a shot and then get the rebound and just start playing again. And it was just like, no time, because that's what the transition defense was all about. So that was fantastic. You go to this game two and you kind of started to do a little bit of the same, and it started to slip away. And I don't know, obviously we're going to go through our opinions on things that you could do. I don't know if there was a blatant one thing that was different. There was a lot of things that were problematic, I think. But look, I think right now the narrative is that the Bucks should not win this series. The general belief outside of Bucks fans is that the Pacers should win. They had the Bucks all season long, and now it's the playoffs. They're a better team, all these things. I'm not seeing anybody on the national stage that is really thinking the Bucks are going to win this thing. And it's kind of, to me, creating this recipe for, we should come out and win the next two. And obviously that would be great and everyone would be excited about that. But think about this. You have almost nobody that expects us to win, right? So we come out there with a solid team. Everybody thinks that they can play well. We did great in game one. We lost in game two. But nobody thinks that we should win. It's, the Pacers are going to win. Pacers are going to win. Bobby Portis loses Sixth Man of the Year, even though all of his stats are better than Naz Reid. Nothing against Naz Reid, but, Bobby really did a great job this year. He loses that. You have Halliburton, who's saying the crowd in Milwaukee sucks. He said he has better crowds in regular season games. You have, everything is going against the Bucks. If they can't get fired up for this next game and steal the first one, then I start to have a little bit of questions about where this team is as far as their mentality. And that's the big factor going on here. I'll throw it back to you in a second, but, Draymond Green, who's not my favorite guy by any stretch. I think he's a pretty good announcer or, commentator, though. He has zero faith in the Pacers. He goes, they are not a championship team. He's like, just because you won a game doesn't mean you're going to win the series. And I think that's the mentality that the Bucks have to have. And I'm really hoping that they have it. They should be fired up for this next game and try to steal game three. And that will just re-energize the fan base. And I think that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, well, I'll focus on a couple of positives here before we get into what went wrong in game two, maybe. But yeah, one huge positive has been Damian Lillard. I mean, that guy has been awesome. Maybe first halves of games he's been
first halves
awesome, more than awesome. He's been incredible. 35 and 26 points, for first halves. But yeah, second halves not as good. We didn't really need him the first game, second half.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of was like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? We were up 25 points or whatever we were. And it was kind of excusable and not a concern at all. The second game, a little bit more concerning as to, where were you? He did get 8 points. I think he had 0 in the first game. So it's not like he did nothing. But back to the positive. In the first half of those games, yeah, he was unstoppable and just exactly the Damian Lillard that we all were anticipating, that we were expecting, that we were saying, that we were waiting for the playoffs. Like, this is the guy. We got him for this stage. He's carrying the team when Giannis is missing. So I don't think, even though the second halves were minimal, I don't think you could ask more from Damian Lillard. Like, he's stepped up. He's done what he needs to do. So that's been awesome. Another positive, it kind of goes to what we were saying. One of the things we said last week was, what's the leash going to be on Beasley? And you don't owe anything to Beasley. Like, if he's not looking good, take him out. And Doc did exactly that. And after the game, this is game 2, when he played Beasley the first half. He didn't put him back in the second half because he was lost out there. I don't know what was going on with Beasley in that second game, but I love the fact that Doc can also see it. I think a lot of coaches just are too loyal to a fault. I think Bud was that way, where something's obvious from, a viewer standpoint, and the coach is just too loyal and just can't see it, or just keeps giving him too many chances. And I'm just so happy that Doc got to a point with Beasley before the playoffs where, if you're not pulling your weight, like, you're going to come out, AJ Green's going to go in, or whoever else. You know what? You're not good enough to start anymore. We're going to put Pat Bev. He's our starter now. So yeah, I'm real happy Doc did that. What are you going to say?
That's been the narrative for others, that, everyone's surprised that Beasley only played 10 minutes. And yeah, I am surprised that he only played 10 minutes, but that's the thing that we've been talking about for a couple episodes, is exactly that, is if he's out there and he's not hitting from like the first 2 minutes that he's out there, then you don't have to play him. And that's exactly what happened. And I can understand people getting up in arms, because it's like, okay, Beasley had a great regular season, but this is not the regular season. The regular season doesn't matter at this point. It really doesn't. And if Beasley is out there and he's not defending well and he's not hitting the shots, then come out. It's the same thing. If you come out and we put AJ Green in and AJ Green isn't doing it, then AJ Green's coming out, and then someone else is going in. And I think that's a huge thing that they're getting up in arms about Beasley getting the least amount of minutes, but they should be looking at, this is exactly what we wanted, or what we hated about Bud, that Doc is doing, is there's a problem, I'm fixing it, and let's move forward.
Yeah. I guess I'll just throw this question out. After the second game, Doc said that the problem tonight was more our offense than our defense. And he's said that multiple times now. It seems like every time we have a bad defensive game, that's what Doc says. Like, is that, the first time he said it, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We took a lot of bad shots, and those bad shots turn into fast break points for the other team. Like, I understand it. It does make some sense. But at the same time, I mean, wasn't our defense bad? That's the game too. Like, even when they weren't in transition, we gave up so many easy shots in the half court. I believe, maybe I need to rewatch the game, but I guess I'm like, should we keep giving Doc a pass here? Or like, is he not focusing on something that he should be focusing on in the defense, and he's only thinking about the offense? Like, how do you think he's on something there, or what?
I think part of it is a kind of a mental game he's playing, because I think he, early on was saying this team can play defense, right? And I think defense is something that it's like, all right, well, you have a scheme and you have a plan, and that's what everybody's playing. And if it's not working, you can't get on them and say, you guys aren't playing defense, because yeah, they had a bad defensive game. But I think his thought is the easiest thing to fix is our offense, right? Defense is something that we've been trying to fix all season. The offense is something that I can criticize as more of an easy fix. And he's got a point on a couple things. Number one of the reasons I think the defense looks so bad is because the Pacers were moving the ball. I mean, it was one of those things you think of, now it's been a while, so I'm going to misquote Hoosiers, but they talked about how you had to pass the ball before a shot, right? It was something like 3 passes before you shot or something like that.
Yep. So
the Pacers were living Hoosiers. I mean, they were passing the ball before a shot, and they were making sure that when the shots were being taken, it was wide open shots. You looked at the Bucks offense, that was not happening. It was, we have guys that we prefer to take the shot. It's Giannis, it's Lillard, it's Middleton. Those are the main 3 guys we want taking the shots when they're out there. We don't want Pat Bev taking a shot unless he has to take a shot. And too many times he was the first option on a shot. And it was like, that's not, no, come on. There had to have been somebody that was open. There had to have been something that was happening. And it could be something to, look, I love Giannis. Obviously, I'm going to defend him to everything. But Charles Barkley made an interesting comment that he said, Giannis doesn't know what to do when he doesn't have the ball. And I think that could be something that happened in game 2 with all Bucks players, is I don't know that they knew what to do. They didn't know how to get open. They didn't know how to get into a position to make a shot. And so Pat Beverly, as much as I'm not blaming him for taking the shots, but I don't think anybody was working hard enough to get open for him to pass it out to them. It was, I'll kind of, they talked about it in the game today. Some people are playing lazy basketball. Like, I'll just, the Heat, we'll jump into that real quick. The Heat upset the Celtics today. And it was, when there was rebounds, they were fighting for the rebound. They were fighting for open shots. They were really had this mentality. And I think the Bucks completely didn't have that in the second game. And I think, maybe that's what Doc was going to. It was, look, the defense at its core is there, but it's the game plan, the execution was what was missing. And the best way to fix that is, let's talk about the offense and try to fix that. The defense will kind of come. That's my hope that he was thinking. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I think that's kind of where he was coming at.
Yeah, I mean, I think both sides are true. Because you're watching this game, especially the second game. I mean, Indiana is putting so much pressure, very high pressure defense, and sending 2 guys to Dame almost every time, basically not letting Dame have the ball or trying to get the hands out of Damian Lillard. And so there's got to be someone open. You have to take advantage of that. Like 2, it's 5-on-5 and you have 2 of your guys way up by half court line by Damian Lillard. As soon as he gets rid of the ball, there has to be quick passes to find who that open guy. There has to be guys cutting to the open space. Like, I don't understand how they weren't already practicing and anticipating that was going to happen, especially after game 1, when you saw pretty much the same kind of defense, just not as effective perhaps. So I am so on Doc's side. Yeah, there's definitely more you can do on offense to get much better shots. On the flip side of that, how was Indiana getting these? Just every shot looked so easy. They had 52 points in the paint in that second game. They had wide open threes all night. Honestly, they could have had a higher percentage and I wouldn't have been surprised. In that first game, they took a lot of threes, but a lot of those threes in the first game were not wide open. They were contested. They were bad. A lot of those were bad shots. And it was Indiana's fault for taking the shot instead of making the extra pass. I think they kind of learned from that. But the point is, they had, I think, more open 3-pointers in game 2, more points in the paint, layups, just easy shots. So why is Indiana getting all these easy shots when we're blitzing them? We're doing a similar thing, a little different, not quite as high pressure, but we're blitzing, especially with Bobby. So then, for a moment, we have 2 guys on Halliburton. So they have a 4-on-3 and they're taking advantage of it. Why are we not taking advantage of that 4-on-3? Like what
I mean, some of the shot selection and, it's one of those, the eye test versus the actual stats, but it looked in that game that we shot 75% of our shots from beyond the arc. And I'm sure that's not the way it is, but it's like Indiana was taking a lot more mid-range. I mean, one of my notes here, Pascal Siakam is absolutely killing us. The guy averages 22 points a game. In 2 games this series, he's averaging 36.5 on 65% shooting, or pretty close to it. They can't say like, all right, look, he's a big, and we have Lopez, and we have Bobby, and if Giannis was there, maybe that'd be a difference. But the fact is, he's not just getting 3-point shots. He's getting a lot of mid range. He's getting a lot of stuff by the basket. I think in game one, Dame was scoring so many points by slashing to the basket and having these layups. And I felt like in game two, you didn't see anybody down trying to get these easy baskets. They were all 3-point attempts. I know that's not the case, but just felt like that. It was just nothing that was mid-range, nothing close to the basket. Brooke is a great 3-point shooter, and he's been playing well and making those shots, but it's like, get by the basket. We haven't had a Bobby game. Bobby seems non-existent out there.
Yeah.
I just can't figure out what the thought process is with some of the shot selection, and I think that's one of the things that's bothering me so much. Is it just seems like I don't know, we just weren't ready for this game, and I think that's the thing that bothers me so much. Is game one, it was like we were prepared, and this is the team that it was like, yes, this is exactly what I was expecting from the Milwaukee Bucks. Is, you know, just get to the playoffs, and then this is the team you're going to see. And then game two, it was just kind of like, oh, well, we got one. That's all we care about. It's like, well, you had the chance to win that game. You just didn't do any. I don't know. Just very flat performance all around, I think.
Yeah. Well, game one, the first half, I almost throw away a little bit for Indiana. Like they were like deer in the headlights, you know, like was not ready for the moment at all. They just looked horrible. Like what did I say? Like all their 3-point shots looked like fifth grader throwing up some shots. I mean, they were just
right.
brick after brick. I was like Toppin and Turner. I looked up their stats because I'm like, these guys look horrible shooting threes. I was wondering, like, do they shoot 3-pointers? Like, is this the first time they've ever taken a three? They look so bad. And I looked up the stats, and they're actually, I mean, Obi Toppin shot 40% on 3 attempts a game. Wow. Miles Turner is maybe kind of like a Brooke Lopez. Miles Turner is 36% on 4.2 attempts. Brooke Lopez is 36.7% on 5 attempts. So Miles Turner is kind of like a poor man Brooke Lopez there. So they're not terrible. They do take some 3-pointers. But that first half of that first game, they just looked so bad. And they took so many ill-advised shots. There were so many shots where I'm like, what are you doing? Like, thank you for taking that shot. Obviously, it's not going in. So yeah, they just were not ready. They came out in that third quarter. They actually killed us that third quarter of the first game. We had such a lead that it kind of gets lost, but they crushed us that third quarter. The fourth quarter, we actually got it together. Chris Middleton kind of took over and kind of saved it. So I think in that first game, really, it was just the third quarter that we lost. In the second game, I think we lost every quarter. If we didn't, it felt like we did. And the first half was only close because of Damian Lillard going off. So that's what happened here. So I guess what I'm saying there is that we're getting beat more than they're beating us. You know, it's tied 1-1, but I feel like we're losing this series. It's not on a good trajectory right now. And so what can we do to stop it? What kind of adjustments are you thinking we need to make? I have a few down here. Do you want me to go into mine, or did you have any off the bat?
Yeah, why don't you start and I'll kind of react.
All right. So the thing in game 2 that really pissed me off was Pat Bev bringing the ball up in that second half. I don't know what prompted that. I mean, I guess I understand what prompted that, but we weren't, correct me if I'm wrong. Were we doing that in the first half?
No, we weren't.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't think so.
Yeah. And I think the problem is we've talked about how Dame has not had these good second halves. And I think that was the biggest problem I had is, you know, Pat Bev is taking up the ball in the second half and Dame is looking like a decoy in the second half. I mean, the offense is not running through him even a little bit. And it was just like, I don't know, are you even, half the time I kept looking, I'm like, oh, Dame must be on the bench because otherwise he should be doing something and he was nowhere to be found. Pat Bev is bringing the ball up. You know, all these other players are taking shots. It's like, I don't even know what's happening at this point. So
yeah,
I felt like, was there something going on that we're not aware of? Or was that it couldn't have been the actual game plan, right?
It was definitely the game plan of the second half. Like for sure that like Doc told him to do that. Like I can't imagine it went the other way because it was very purposeful. It happened. It continued to happen all half. And I mean, my guess is they did it because it's taking a lot of energy for Dame to deal with that pressure, bringing the ball up every single time, dealing with that pressure every second. That does seem like a taxing thing to deal with. So maybe you give him breaks occasionally, like that would make sense. And I understand, like that's fine. Like, let's come out, let's try this. Let's try Dame off ball. We'll set a pick. He'll do a dribble handout. Whatever it is, we'll get him the ball after Pat Bev brings it up. That would be understandable, but first of all, that wasn't happening. Like you said, Dame wasn't touching the ball. He literally went through a number of possessions without ever touching the ball. I think Dame's partly to blame. I don't think he was trying hard enough. Sometimes he kind of just gave up on trying to get the ball. But it's just like we played 100% into the Pacers' game plan of let's get the ball out of Dame's hands. It's like Dame brings the ball up, and they send 2 guys on him because they want him to get rid of the ball. Like, that's their whole thing.
Right.
And Dame goes off in the first half, being the main ball handler. It's just so like I just can't believe that they did it and stuck with it. I guess if you want to try it, let's see if this works. Okay. Well, it's not working. I could tell it wasn't working after 3 minutes of the third quarter, and they continued to do it the entire second half until the garbage time. It's one half. I guess I'll give it to them. If they come back in game 3 and do that, I'm going to freak out. It's like, it's not a good plan.
And you should. And that's the thing. It's like, Dame doesn't, you're right. If he's carrying the team on his shoulders, that's a tough thing to do. And if he's going to be like, look, I'm going to come out and I'm going to try to set the tone early. That's my thing. Great. Do it. In the second half, like, we can give you some breaks in a certain way, but maybe what we do is we still have you bring the ball up, but don't have you don't have to take the shot. Like, we just want you to bring it up and draw the defense so that someone else can take a shot. Like, we're going to almost not even give you the green light to shoot for half of the third quarter. That's going to be your rest period. Or you go even further and just straight up rest them. But don't continue to let Pat Beverly, I'm sorry, your role is not to do that. We've talked about this 1,000 times. Your role is defined to be a great defender. It's to kind of help in certain situations. It is not to be the guy that's bringing the ball up. You didn't have PC bringing the ball up. You didn't have Middleton bringing the ball up. All those guys I'd prefer 1,000 times over. There's just some things that it's like, you nailed it. If you're trying it, okay, I get it. Maybe you had the sense that the game was slipping away. Let's try something and see how it works. And you just were stubborn that you didn't want to take away from it. But I don't know that you can't do that again. You just can't do it more than like a handful of possessions. It's the same type of thing where it's, if you have Jay Crowder gets 10 shots a game, let's say, like, all right, he knows he gets his 10 shots. He's got to make them count. That's the same thing with Pat Beverly. You get 10 times to bring the ball up. That's it. Like, I'm giving you 10 times.
Yeah.
If you can't do something with it, like, maybe you can earn more, maybe, but for the most part, like, that's it. Like, somebody else has to take the ball from you. PC, you're the next up, or Middleton, you're taking it up. Middleton, maybe something had to do with that ankle and knee thing that maybe he just couldn't be in that thing. He needed to set up shots. There could be something to that. But I completely agree. If Pat Beverly is going to be leading this offense, then that is just a recipe for disaster for the rest of the series.
Yeah. So to be clear, the adjustment is have Dame play point guard. Just Damian Lillard's our point guard.
He's your role.
The guy.
Yeah.
So it's partly on the coaching staff. It's partly on Dame to own it, to want it, to be like, to run back and get the ball. He really seems to kind of back off pretty early. Like, if he can't easily get it in the first couple seconds, it's kind of like, okay, someone else is going to get it. While other teams like a Jalen Brunson or someone, like, they are making it happen. Like, this is my ball. I'm going to get it. And I want Damian Lillard to be like that in this series. And if we want to go ahead.
Sorry, that's the knock I have on Damian Lillard. I think he's great, but the thing is, like, Giannis saying this is your team, he doesn't seem to have that mentality which is exactly what he had with Portland. This is my team, give me the ball, let me do it. He comes here and he's almost being too nice about it. Like, get that killer mentality, get the ball back.
Yep. Yeah. And then if we need to give him some rest sometimes, like if you need someone else to bring it up sometimes, then that's, you know what, let's give PC more playing time to make that happen. Pat Bev is not the guy to do it. Just the offense falls apart when Pat Bev is the point guard. However it happens, why it happens, I don't know, but it does. And we've seen it since he's been a Buck. That's all the stats show that. That's what it looks like on the eye test. That's what happens. And let's just not put him in that position. I don't even blame Pat Bev that much. It's just, you know, he's not, that's not his skill. He gets caught, you know, everyone's covered. They're not getting open like you're saying. I have kind of an opening here. I mean, the Pacers want him to do this because he's not very good at it. And he's like, well, I guess I have to go into the lane here and have this weird kind of push up. I don't know what this shot is. And it doesn't go in 90% of the time. So it's just, let's know that and not play into it. So one half, all right, we'll give the coaching staff a pass. It better not happen again. So that was number one. Number two, I think we kind of talked about a little bit here, but number two is attack Indiana's pressure. And we saw PC do this. There was a specific play where PC got around the pressure on top, drove the lane. The big committed to PC. He dumped it off to Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis had a little free layup. That should be happening more. That only happened, I feel like, a couple times in game two. Like, that should be happening with Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard should be doing that. The big's committing. He has someone to pass off who's making a cut to the basket or is just sitting there, whether it's Brook Lopez or some wing cutting over. I just, with the high pressure that Indiana is playing with, I was amazed that we didn't get more of those backdoor cut type of situations happening. And it's like, are they not doing it? Are they not looking for it? I don't know, but either way, that's like a common thing is attack pressure. And the Bucks were just too passive with that. There was a couple times in the first half where Dame did dribble, get around and make stuff happen, whether he would pull up for a three, he got a couple layups. Not as many passes as I would expect some more open threes and some open layups. That's the thing that I'm kind of surprised on. But it seemed like that Damian Lillard kind of gave up partly because he didn't have the ball. And then secondly, sometimes we're just too passive. We're just holding it and then we just pass it off and then we don't have much time. The pressure really bothered the Bucks, and I hope that they have a game plan come game three.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a couple things there. One of the things that you said at the end there is the thing that was bothering me, and I kind of touched on it a couple episodes ago, this casual passing. We had 3 huge turnovers, I think, in a row of these real, like, pathetic passes. You had one where Middleton was trying to get the ball to Bobby. Bobby was well covered. I mean, this was like, you're not getting it in there. And he still kind of did this half-assed lob, and naturally it was stolen. It was like, okay, yeah, that was probably going to happen. Then you had another play where I can't remember who it was, but did one of those half across the court passes that was intercepted. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, don't do that. Way too much distance. And you lobbed it. Everybody in the world saw that coming. And of course, that's exactly what happened. It was like, if you're going to pass, commit to it. Like, I'm sick of these bullshit. There's the first one. Like lobs that it's just like, have some like actual commitment to what you're doing. The other thing you talked about is like when Dame is like driving, everybody's sitting there and just watching him play. They're all sitting out on the 3-point, just being like, wow, I wonder what he's going to do. That is what? No, you should be there. He has nobody to pass it off to. He's got nobody to help him out. The best thing he can do is if he doesn't have a layup, he's got to shoot it out to 3-point. Like, come on, there's got to be somebody in the lane to help him out. And that's Bobby for sure. And Brook should be doing that as well. I'm waiting for a Bobby game because we've seen him go off. And it's just like, I don't know what's missing yet. He should be crashing that. Maybe it's the starting role and maybe he's being too into his head about what he's supposed to do when he's out there. But yeah, I mean, you can't have a guy that's a 6'1" point guard. I don't know how tall Dame is, but he's not huge. Small. And not be able to have somebody to dish it off to, because you have, game 1, he had some great layups. He had some great situations. Game 2, as expected, Pacers let him do that, and he was, he'd hit a couple of them, and then he was getting blocked left and right because there was no one else for him to dish to. 3-point was covered. You're not going to dish it behind yourself, so you only really have one option. That was just a complete failure, and I don't understand what was happening at that.
Well, you were talking about my next adjustment, which is don't start Bobby. It's partially because he has not been playing well, but also his role all season is coming off the bench. He's an energy guy. He's a spark. He provides a spark. He comes in, and it's a different look that the defense hasn't seen yet. I think we lose that when he starts, unless he has just a incredible game, because he has started for Giannis and had an incredible game in the past. But in general, I think he's better coming off the bench, for one. For two, he's not a great defensive player. He's not good at running around, covering all these guys. And and in that regard, he's looked pretty bad on defense against Indiana here. So I think don't start him. Personally, I would start PC. I think PC, to what you were just saying before, is he's going to make some of those cuts. He's very good at knowing where to be. He's a really smart basketball player. Whether you like him or not, or think he sucks at defense or whatever, he is a very smart basketball player that knows where to be on the court. And I think he might help. I think he would help the offense with just the spacing of it and where to be, making the cuts, just being smart about where to be. So, and then on defense, I guess the thing that we missed there is we're taking a big off the court. We're taking Bobby off. Okay, now you got Miles Turner and you have Siakam. How are you going to guard these guys? Well, we're not guarding Siakam. No one can guard Siakam. He got 36.5 points, 36 and 37 points. So just, in my opinion, like, all right, just give that up. Siakam's getting 40 points. Fine. So PC can guard him. Middleton can guard him. Like, I don't care. He's going to hit that 9-foot jumper, whatever that is, from the top of the paint, essentially. He's going to hit that. Hopefully he doesn't. And if he's not hitting it, great for us. Otherwise, like, he's going to get, my point is he's going to get that shot no matter what. You tried Crowder. Crowder is not doing anything on him. Crowder for sure can't run around and guard these 3-point shooters. So I do not want Crowder to be the answer, which I'm afraid is what would be the answer. If you don't start Bobby, do you start Crowder? I hope not. Like I'm saying, I'm just give up the big guy, like whatever. You got Brook in there, to protect the rim. And then you got 4 guards and / wings, which I'd rather have them running around guarding all these 3-point shooters and, as they're passing it around. I'd rather have that than a Bobby or a Crowder who cannot keep up. And like I said, they can't guard Siakam either. So what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think starting Bobby is something that an inexperienced coach like Adrian Griffin would have done. Well, you got 2 bigs. I'll put up 2 bigs. That's what we'll do. No. Number one, you nailed it. Bobby is an energy guy off the bench. That's his biggest attribute that he provides to the entire team is you have this amazing guy coming off the bench that is providing a spark, and he's doing all these great things. You don't need to start another big along with Brook because now you've put yourself in a situation where you don't have another big. Gallinari is not going to be out there in this series. He's just not. It's not happening. Crowder is just not going to be the answer, like you said, as well. So I agree 100%. Have Bobby come off the bench. That's a huge thing. PC starting, yes, 100%. That's you need a smart guy out there. The thing that you need. So we talked about how Doc planned for game 1 by having all these young guys on the team basically be the Pacers. Hey, yeah, you guys are young, you're fast, you're quick, you're going to be the Pacers. Hold on. You kind of just said it, Doc. They're just like the team that you're playing. And we've talked about this before, and I'm not saying that Ajax is the solution for everything. But at worst, he's a guy that can give you 5 fouls and mess with somebody. I don't care who you want him to mess with. You put him on Siakam and be like, get in that guy's head and just tear him down and just make him just get so annoyed by you. I don't care if you foul out in the first quarter. Just mess him up. Do the same thing with Halliburton. Whoever you want you to do. I don't want you to leave this guy for a second and I want you to annoy the hell out of him so he gets frustrated. That's what I want you to do. And the fact that we haven't done that, it's like, okay, we have a veteran team that matches up great with a team like Boston, but not with a team like the Pacers. Crowder is not the answer. He's all of a sudden turning into Beasley. I don't know if you're noticing this. We have all these plays set up for him to take a three. All right, I didn't realize Crowder was a big three-point shooter, but apparently that's what we see him as.
Yeah.
Like, when did that happen? Brook Lopez, love Brook Lopez, but he is slow compared to the rest of the team. He is a rim protector, and he has a great three-point shot, but he's not going to be chasing people around. And that's one of the things that I saw that really bothered me is they were constantly doing these pick and rolls to switch off so that Siakam had Dame guarding him. And the worst situation was, I don't know who Dame normally would have in that role, but they switched off, and whoever Dame was supposed to have, or that Brook was having, was all the way out on the top of the key. Brook was down low with Siakam having the ball. That was a great time to switch, and they didn't.
I
and
know
it was
exactly
like,
the play you're talking about.
That bothered me so much. It was like that. It was so like, let the other guy take the three if you want to. He's not doing anything. Siakam is killing you, and you're letting Dame go one-on-one. Like, of course Siakam's about to kill you. It
was so obvious. I couldn't believe Brook did not. It was really up to Brook to say, like, hey, go. I got Siakam. Go over here. And he ran right behind him. He went right past him.
Right behind him. Yeah, right behind him. Yep.
What are you doing? You're running to the 3-point line, Brook. That was kind of mind-boggling that he did that. Yeah.
I didn't understand that at all. But yeah, I mean, it's get Bobby out of the starting lineup, put someone like PC in there. Look, I'm okay if you want to give it a shot with Crowder. I don't think that's the answer. I don't like it. If it means that your second team is Bobby and PC coming in, okay, that's great, because
and maybe they come in sooner.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if Dame is hot in the first quarter, you don't need those guys to come in as quick, and you get some Crowder minutes early, and maybe he's figuring something out that he needs to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think the Bobby Brook lineup, just because they have two bigs, is kind of a weird decision. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah. One more thing on PC. The knock on PC is that he's not a very good individual defender. He lets guys blow by him. I think there's some truth to that. He's not the best at keeping guys in front of him, but he's a really good team defender. He's very good at rotating, at knowing where to go. And that's what we need in this series. This series, it's not even that important to have like these, except for against Siakam. If you had a Giannis in the game against Siakam, that would be extremely helpful. But with the perimeter defense, it's not like they're just blowing by guys. It's like we've been talking about. I mean, we're actually blitzing them, making Halliburton get the ball out of his hands, and now they have an advantage, and they're passing it around really quick and getting open looks. And so we need to be making those rotations. So that's more important than individual defense, I think, in this series. And so that's just another reason that I think PC is actually a pretty good fit for more minutes, I guess, at the least. But I think start him instead of Bobby, go from there.
Yep.
All right, going on to another thing you were talking about, which is one of my adjustments, is give minutes to Ajax and maybe even Livingston. Exactly what you're saying, exactly what we said before the series started. It's just obvious that it makes sense to play these guys. And in that game too, the fact that they did not get minutes in game 2, until garbage time, is a little concerning, because it was such an obvious game to put in at least Ajax for a couple minutes at some point, to be like, let's just throw something else out here. Can we control this? Because Indiana was scoring all game. It wasn't like they just turned it on in the third quarter or something. Throughout the entire game, first through the fourth quarter, they were throwing that ball around, getting wide open shots. And in the first, they were missing a lot of threes that first quarter. So we kind of got lucky a little bit, but they were wide open. And so the fact that he didn't put Ajax in at any point in time when Beasley is struggling immensely, Crowder's doing nothing. I don't know why he's out there so much. That's a little concerning. I think coaches are slower to make changes. We're pretty reactionary as fans. So maybe it just takes them a little bit of time. Maybe, thinking about game 2, okay, game 3, Now maybe it's in his head, I'm going to give Ajax some minutes. I'm hoping that that's the case. And Livingston too, I'd like to see it. Like we said, they're the fastest. They're like two of the fastest guys, according to that stat, whatever that means, however they measure that statistic. They apparently are like the two fastest defenders in the NBA, or two of the. And that's what we need. And get to, and like give a high amount of energy. Maybe you're going to get tired quick. Maybe Pat Bev's going to get tired and can't handle 36 minutes in game 1, 34 minutes in game 2. That's a lot of minutes for Pat Bev. Like, how good of a player is Pat Bev? All right. I like him. I do like him. I'm not so sure that a championship team is going to give 36 minutes to Pat Bev. Like, that's not a good sign to me. So yeah, let's take some minutes from Pat Bev. Let's sit Crowder the rest of the series. That's my last adjustment, by the way. Don't play Crowder. Sit Crowder, play Pat Bev less. That's like 15, 20 minutes that you have to play with, that you could put Ajax in, give Livingston a chance, maybe even, but just Ajax I'm fine with. But the young, fast, high energy, high pressure, they can play high pressure defense. Let's do that. It's a little bit mind-boggling that Ajax hasn't had a shot yet, especially with the end of the regular season. Doc was seemingly kind of warming up to it, giving him some minutes. Like we talked, I think 5 games in a row, he had some minutes. And Giannis is out, so that's kind of one player gone, one player removed from your opportunity to get minutes, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. I hope he's thinking about it and open to it. Yeah. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's look, worst case scenario, you have one of these guys come in and foul out quickly. And if that happens, what probably happened along those lines was that you were able to disrupt the rhythm and the energy of someone on the Pacers. They were either able to get in their head, their pace slowed down significantly, their transition offense slowed down significantly. Like, get them out of what they're trying to do to you. That worst case scenario, that's the worst case scenario that's going to happen. I think, I don't know the record for how quickly someone has fouled out with like legit fouls, but let's just say it's 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes. You just said there's only 15 to 20 minutes that we're playing with here. You give one of these guys 10 minutes to get in there and just bother someone. It's like, you have free range to foul if you need to. Like, I hope you don't, but I hope you kind of do it enough just to disrupt it. And if you come out, guess what? I'm putting another young guy in there. There's no rule that says I can't go deep into my bench. I don't start the series by saying, yeah, I got, 12 guys to choose from, but I'm only going to play 7. Like, you don't have to decide that. You can play them all if you want to. So that's something that they have to do. I really want to see something like that. I'm not saying that they are the savior, but if anything, it's just going to disrupt what we're seeing from the Pacers, and that's kind of the big key here. The one thing that I'll maybe give some credit to is it's 7-game series. We've talked about this before. It's a chess match. We potentially have 5 more games against the Pacers right now, so you can have a little bit of wiggle room to make some adjustments here and there. Game 3 is not a win or we're screwed situation. But at the same time, I do want to see at least some improvement and some adjustments, some minute exchanges, move some things around. That's why I think we brought Doc in, and that's what I'm hoping that we see happen.
Yeah, if you look at the Indiana Pacers, who they're playing, they have a guy named Ben Shepherd. I don't know who that is.
No,
but he's playing 23 minutes. He's 22 years old. He's playing 23 minutes. They have Nemhard. He's 24 years old. He's killing us with his high pressure defense. They're playing these young guys that, I don't know, maybe they were kind of blue chip players. I guess I don't really know who they are. I think Nemhard was on Gonzaga. I don't know where he was picked. I'm not sure where Ben Shepherd sounds like a Kansas guy, but no, he went to Belmont.
Okay.
So where was he picked? Should have looked it up. Probably, I don't think he was like a top 10 pick. I mean, they're playing these young guys who, in theory, shouldn't be playing in the playoffs. Like, maybe they're special guys. They earned it. They're playing well. Okay. I feel like Ajax played well when he's had time. Like,
Yeah.
maybe he should be playing. Okay. Maybe our 76-year-old Jay Crowder shouldn't be playing in this series. I don't know. It's just, you look at these other teams. OKC's, obviously they have some really super talented young guys, but there's a lot of young rosters out there who are winning games, playing really well. And here the Bucks are throwing out a bunch of 30-plus-year-olds. Maybe that's part of the problem. We're too slow to change. We're too loyal to these guys. And coming off of this might be a little controversial, and I don't know what I totally think about it. But Middleton has not looked good defensively this series. I think he is part of the problem on defense, and it might make sense to take some of his minutes away. We obviously need him on offense, but we don't necessarily need him 48 minutes. And maybe he could be like a Portis type of a guy. Maybe, he still is going to get 30 minutes, let's say. But, maybe he gets 30 minutes instead of 38 or 40 minutes. And that just gives you a little bit more defensive intensity and changes kind of the identity of what we're doing here. I don't know. I guess in general, I'm just saying I'm not so sure about Middleton's defense, especially against these young, fast teams where you have to run all over. I think Middleton is having trouble keeping up with it. And again, I'm not 100% sure what to do. Middleton on offense is super important. You saw it in game 1 in the fourth quarter. He kind of saved us from collapsing in that game. He's great. So I'm not picking on Middleton or saying, he's too old. It's like he's done. Nothing like that. But he's definitely lost a step on defense. And especially against a team like this, it might be more of a liability sometimes.
That's the challenge with liking the Milwaukee Bucks right now, is because we have great players that are just aging. And we don't know exactly where they fit right now because, Chris Middleton is still one of the best mid-range shooters in the game. It's just
the best.
That's
actually
the way it is. Yeah. His defense has taken a step back, which is unfortunate, but that's the kind of the way it is. But there's got to be a way to kind of fix that. It's the same type of thing when you look at Brook Lopez. Still an amazing rim protector. Still, just a great shooter, but you look at the way that Brook Lopez has been driving to the lane, and he looks like a big old guy trying to do it. Like, I mean, it does not look easy for him to make a dunk, and he's 7 feet tall. Like, it's, I'm sorry, he's 35 years old. It's the way it happens. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, you don't see LeBron dunking the way he used to, but he's got to find different ways with his game. And I think that's the problem with the Bucks is you can't bring in a Pat Bev, a Crowder, Gallinari, and just keep getting older when you already know that your best player's liability is their age and that they're just going to be a half step slower than they used to be. That's the problem. You got to be able to mix it up. And the other thing too is, look, I don't know if Doc is in this mode of let me prove why I was brought in and let me show you what I do and that I'm going to prove that my system works, or if he should have the attitude of there's not a chance in hell you're firing me at the end of this. Like, it's just not happening. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Number one, I was brought in mid-year. I have a 4-year deal. There's no way you're firing me. So I can do literally anything I want this year, and let me try something nuts, right? And if you don't like it and we bow out early, guess what? I'm 100% coming back this year or next year, and maybe we'll change the roster because it didn't work. But you don't have to stick to your guns. It didn't work in Philly. It didn't work in LA. The only time it worked for you was in Boston, and they stayed healthy. So mix it up. Do something different. Protect your liabilities somewhere by changing things up. And I think I don't know. We got to see a little bit of change coming up. It's only 2 games. Can't overreact here, but it's hard not to. But that's kind of my expectations for Doc, is we got to have some, I don't know, something new to mix it up.
And this whole conversation is no Giannis. we're kind of working under the assumption there's no Giannis. He obviously hasn't played first 2 games, the ones we've been talking about. We're assuming he's not back in game 3, game 4, maybe not. So anyway, just to put that out there, the premise here is there's no Giannis. With Giannis playing, I think that changes a lot of what we've been seeing, and it's going to be a different game. To that point, we'll reference what we talked about last time with the Pacers out rebounding us, scoring more points in the paint, having less turnovers in those previous 5 matchups. So far in these first 2 games, Indiana out rebounded us in both games. Obviously, more points in the paint. Without Giannis, I can't imagine that we would get more points in the paint than them. But so that's not as surprising. Although interesting, points in the paint. The first game, Indiana had 40. Second game, they had 52. So we did give up, like we were saying, I think a lot of easier baskets. Plus Siakam was hitting a lot of those where they're not layups, but they are points in the paint where he's taking that jumper from like 8 feet, however many feet that is. Anyway, they won both of those battles. The turnover battle, we actually won in game 1, 10-12, and we lost it in game 2, but it was only 5-7. So not many turnovers in game 2 for either team. But Indiana did win rebounding and points in the paint. So without Giannis, I guess that would be expected. With Giannis, it was surprising that Indiana out rebounded us 4 of those 5 games previously. So
yeah, I mean, Giannis is the X factor. It's the thing that, he is one of the best players in the league. So you can't discount him not being out there. I mean, Damian Lillard is fantastic. There's a reason we brought him in. But you still don't have Giannis. I mean, that's just a big part of it. Look at the Lakers. LeBron isn't what he used to be, but the Lakers are still significantly worse when he's not playing. It's maybe not the best example, but it's like the Bucks still have a really good team. They should still be able to win games without him. But if Giannis can't come back at all, yeah, I do question, can we actually win the entire thing? Because it's Giannis. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't think the team is set up to go for a championship run without him. That's always going to be my fear is, conflicting reports. You had Damian Lillard had the same injury that Giannis had, and 15 days he missed and came back. Well, we're at the 15-day mark for Giannis. But some reports are coming out that he's not able to run yet. Other reports are that he's progressing well. So we're just going to have to see. I agree with you. We're not going to see him in game 3 and probably not game 4. My hope is that we don't push him out there in like a must-win game, because that's the problem. Like, he needs to be able to be, if we can take one from Indy and split the series there, and it's 2-2. Okay, now you have him coming back for game 5. That's a different story. Forcing him to come back in game 5 because we're down 3-1. That's not what I want to see happen, because then you risk further injury. Now you have too much pressure on him. You can't limit the minutes. It's, do or die at that point. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know where I'm going with that, but to your point, different team. If Giannis is back, we can only just deal with what we have right now.
Yeah, well, I guess we have no idea. There was a report that Giannis wasn't even, fully practicing yet. So didn't look good, I guess, based on that report. So let's just assume he doesn't play in Indiana, games 3 and 4. If that's the case, we need to win one of those games.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. If we go down 3-1 and he comes back, I think it might be too late. And it's kind of like looking at last year's series against the Heat. He came back and he wasn't the same. And, it's not he can't come back and it's just like everything's solved. I mean, we're still playing a good Pacers team here. I mean, we lost to them in the regular season, 4 to 5 times. So, yeah, I think we need to get one in Indiana. It's possible, but it's tough. That game 2 really was concerning. I'm kind of scared. I'm hoping that we can pull it off. I know we can. but players have to step up. Our role players haven't done much. Damian Lillard has done so much that we haven't really needed the role players to be hitting these threes, but they haven't been. I don't think they hit any threes in game 2. I guess I don't have that stat in front of me, but we haven't had AJ Green hitting threes, or PC hitting a couple threes, or Crowder missed all his, for some reason he's getting a bunch of shots. No one is really stepping up. Beasley was obviously horrible in game 2. In game 1, I guess Beasley was, I think, 3 for 7, so he hit some shots, but for the most part, Lillard is kind of made up for that. Usually Lillard wouldn't be that good. I mean, he's shooting like over 50% from 3 and from the field, and that's certainly not his season stats or even what you'd expect for just a good game. I mean, it's not going to be as good as we've seen. And so usually that's kind of balanced out with, okay, you got a role player here or there who's doing something. But game 2 at home, our role players were bad, and Bobby Portis, who was a starter that game, was bad. And that's, how do you come out with a win when you got 6 guys not contributing essentially? So that needs to change. And it's just like, oh man, we have to do that in Indiana and hope that Indiana doesn't have their role players just like hitting threes and doing what they do, which I guess I don't have any stats in front of me, but historically it seems like the home team role players tend to play better at home. I think that's a general true statement. So that's just, we're kind of going up, we're fighting uphill a little bit, trying to get one of these games in Indiana without Giannis, but we're going to have to do it. We need Dame to continue to do what he's doing in the first half. Hopefully he does a whole game, gets 50 plus points. That'd be sweet. Middleton kind of disappeared. Middleton wasn't enough Middleton in game 2. We need more from him. When Dame is forced to get rid of the ball, if Giannis is back, that's the whole thing. If Giannis is here, Dame's forced to get rid of the ball. He gives it to Giannis. Now we have a 4-on-3 with Giannis with the ball at the top of the key. Okay, that's a basket almost every single time. So can someone like be as half of as effective as Giannis? It's like, why is no one being able to do anything? And that's another thing. I think PC actually is one of the best options we have for that kind of a situation. Give the guy the ball. We have a 4-on-3. We need to act quickly. I love how PC sometimes catches the ball and immediately penetrates like to the lane, to the rim, passing it or getting a layup. I don't see anyone else doing that. He knows what he's doing before he gets the ball half the time. And so maybe that's another reason to start PC, get him in those situations where he's the guy that Dame is throwing the ball off to, making something happen. But yeah, we need guys to step up big time if Giannis isn't going to come back. So it is possible, but we need a number of guys to step up in the same game and pull out a win.
We don't have a bunch of role players that are journeyman NBA players that are chasing rings. We have guys that have playoff experience, that have put up big games in their career. So they should be able to step up. PC definitely has that ability. We've seen Bobby have those games. We've had Beasley have those games. There's got to be somebody that stands up at this point and does something. So here's a question for you, though. Are you more nervous as a Bucks fan, or would you be more nervous if you were a Celtics fan right now?
I think I'm more nervous as a Bucks fan. I think the Celtics, I would trust them too much that they're going to be fine. Also, Miami hit like 22 threes or something like that. I'd be like, they're not going to do that again. Yeah, I'm more nervous as a Bucks fan because it's like we have to play really well. Like I just said, a number of guys have to step up. A number of things have to go right, in my opinion, for the Bucks to win. Like Indiana has a great game plan. We have not had an answer for it. We have to figure that out. So right now, if Giannis is not coming back, I'm picking Indiana to win the series. So yeah, I'm more worried as a Bucks fan.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that the big thing that's so interesting here is we have a split series right now. Boston Miami is a split series, right?
Yes.
We don't have our best player out there who's expected to come back at some point. We don't have no idea when that's going to be.
The top 2 player in the NBA.
Yep, exactly. But we won a game and we lost a game. Now we're going to Indiana, and the majority of the Bucks fan base is like, we're screwed. We're going to lose both games in Indiana. We're coming back for game 5. We got to win. It's like, okay, fair. I get it. I 100% get it. On the flip side, Boston is this juggernaut team who everybody's healthy, everybody's playing well, and they just lost to the 8 seed who doesn't even have their best player at home. And now they're going to Miami.
At home. They did not lose many games at home at all. They lost like 3-4 games. I guess I don't know what it ended up with, but yeah, good point.
So now they're going to Miami, and people have no fear that they're not going to win that series yet. So it's like, it's just something interesting to think about here, because on one hand, if I was Boston, I'd be a little more worried. It's like you said, hey, we don't lose at home. We have everybody healthy. We've been playing really well. We just lost to a team that does not have Jimmy Butler, and now we have to go to Miami and play 2 games. Now, Miami is not a place that I fear that home crowd. I feel like those people barely are even paying attention. I think Miami games look like they're half filled. They're waiting for the clubs to open. It's just like, what should we do before that happens? I mean, they're some of the most pathetic looking fans on TV that I've seen. So there's no fear there. But at the same time, it's like, your team is loaded and ready to go, and you just lost.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it is Miami. I mean, they just lost to Miami last year in 7 games. They were down 3-0. They came back, but still lost. They've had battles with Miami, like Milwaukee's had battles with Miami. Miami is just a scary team, no matter what. So there's that added onto it.
So I guess the thing is, like, my shout out for Bucks fan here is have a little faith, because I don't disagree with you. If Giannis is not back, I'm not going as far as to say that we're going to lose the series. I want to see what we look like in game 3. That's going to be a big tell for me. I am nervous, yes, but Boston fans should be nervous too. This is the thing that we love about the playoff basketball, is the regular season really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Boston was able to win all the time at home. They had the best nobody cares. You're tied with the 8th seed that had to win a playing game and doesn't have their best player. You should be super nervous right now. I'm sorry. Bucks fans, you should be nervous too, but a little more optimism. I think there's things that we can easily fix. Let's just see it in game 3. That'll be the big tell. If we lose both games to Indiana, in Indiana, yes, I'm going to be extremely nervous for the outcome of this series.
These are NBA players. These are professional, the best basketball players in the world. Like, they can handle high pressure defense, right? Like, why I don't understand why it's just completely killing us. Like, they haven't seen it before or something. It's just mind boggling to me. Like, just attack the pressure. You can handle the ball. You're a professional basketball player in the NBA. Like, you're one of the top 100 players in the world, like all of you, or 300 players, however many are in the NBA. It's just, it was kind of mind-boggling how much Indiana got into our heads. Game 2 wasn't even game 1 where it was like, whoa, what's this team doing? Like, we had seen what they wanted to do. They just did it a little better, and it was like, all right, I don't know what to do. So yeah, game 3 is going to show us a lot. If it's the same thing, it's like, holy shit, like, we need a new roster right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all thinking like, obviously we need some roster changes, but if they can't handle pressure, like, what the hell's going on here? So
if we lose this series, you will see a completely different team next year. And I'm not going to say completely different, because you're still going to have Giannis, you're still going to have Dame, you're still going to have Middleton.
Yeah, you're going to have Dame, everybody. That's not
let's calm down. Yeah. But you're going to have some changes elsewhere, and we'll see what those happen to be. Youth injection for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, these Bucks, we're dead in the water. We don't even have a first round pick. We do have a first round pick. Like, pay attention. We still have another first round pick. We still have 2 guys. Look, there's a lot of things going on here. Come on. Like, let's just stop.
Pay attention.
So yeah, I mean, there's going to be some changes, but, it's I don't know. I still have some faith that we'll make some adjustments. If we get absolutely crushed in game 3, I'm going to start to get real worried.
Yes. Okay. Well, enough about the Bucks Pacers series. We'll come back to that in a week. I think we're pretty much wrapping it up. I did want to mention the Sixers Knicks series, which is, first of all, a really fun series to watch. Like that, those games are coming down to the last second. They're super physical. That's playoff basketball. That's the other thing about this Indiana Milwaukee series. It's like, is this playoff basketball? Like, what is this? This is just, I don't, it's probably harder, especially when the Bucks lose game 2. It's like that. Anyhow, Knicks Sixers, great series, and just a wild ending to game 2. What was your reaction to that? What are you thinking about the Sixers? Like we were just saying, pressure on Milwaukee and Boston. What do you have to say about Philadelphia and where they're at right now?
So yeah, it's a great series. I saw the end of that game live, and Ashley and I the whole time were just like, "What is happening?" Because you've seen the clips, you know what's going on. It's like you're always expecting a foul. There's just chaos everywhere, and it's just like I'm really shocked what's happening right now. The biggest takeaway there, the Knicks are really good. I mean, they don't have Julius Randle, and they are still really good. Philly's really good too, but there's something that's off. Can't really pinpoint what it is. And it kind of goes to the early narrative of, maybe I'm kind of glad we didn't have Nick Nurse come to Milwaukee because I don't know.
I know he's not getting it done there.
Yeah, I'm not putting a lot on him because, he didn't have Embiid for 20 some games or whatever it happened to be. Mm-hmm. That's a huge, whatever. But, Knicks look real good. And it's funny because that NBA survey had the number one coach that NBA players did not want to play for by far was Tom Thibodeau. And it was like, all right, well, he's got something going on. But yeah, I mean, it's we talked about it before. DiVincenzo, I think the thing is, I think he learned a lot going to Golden State from Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, for whatever he learned. But he's stepped up. New York is exactly where he needs to be. Bigger stage.
Yes.
He's living up to it. It works for him and good for him. I mean, I have no problem. I root for him as much as I guess I can for just some East Coast guy. But yeah, I mean, Knicks look great. It's a great series. It's super fun. I'm excited to see what it's like in Philly. New York and Philly fans are both crazy. So they're all going to be just completely wild. So yeah, really excited. On the flip side, it's like, the Orlando Cleveland series is such a snooze fest that it's like, I think they put on those games at like 8:00 on Sunday mornings. And it's like, oh, I kind of forgot that game was happening. Nobody cares. Like it's over. Like,
yeah,
that's fine. And then in the East, you got, Miami and Boston, which are these vet teams that are just like, oh yeah, we'll kind of plot along and we'll figure it out and, things will happen. Milwaukee's in that same boat, but then they got the young team that's like messing things up for them that they got to figure out. But that New York Philly series is awesome. I really hope Philly wins 2 in a row because I want to keep it going. On the other side, let's talk about some of these West Coast games. The end of the Denver LA game the other day was pretty incredible too. Look, I've talked about this before. I need a LeBron break, but dude, if you get a wide open 3 to win and you brick it, like that just doesn't look good for your legacy. I'm sorry. Like you were wide. There was nowhere within 10 feet of you. And you had like enough time to take a deep breath. It was like a Giannis 3 throw that you had to shoot that and you missed it.
It's too bad he missed it because he was awesome that game. He was vintage LeBron, completely controlling the game, which is like my favorite LeBron. My favorite player in NBA history is that LeBron. The LeBron of Cleveland beating the Warriors, like that LeBron who just controls the game. He's the chess master all game, just being the point guard and just making the right play every time, calling over the pick. Like, no, I want you to set the pick because I want this matchup. He was doing that all second. I didn't see the first half of that game. So the second half, like that's what that was. And him and AD were playing that pick and roll game to perfection. LeBron did hit a couple of big threes late in the fourth quarter. So, but then he missed that one that he needed to hit. And Denver comes down and Jamal Murray hits that awesome game winner. Denver somehow pulled that off. I mean, when I was watching that game, it was like the Lakers are better. Like the Lakers should win this game. And
Lakers should have won that game.
Won. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shame. Yeah, I mean, LeBron played a fantastic game. It's just, kind of funny that he didn't hit it when it mattered the most, and that was just, the Minnesota Phoenix series. I'm kind of loving a little bit too. Mm-hmm. I mean, Anthony Edwards just talking mad shit to Durant is just hilarious, and Durant's even laughing at it because he's just like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." But I mean, it's amazing to watch the implosion of the Phoenix Suns. I mean, on paper, they should be like, well, yeah, you're obviously going to the Western Conference Finals, and they're going to get swept. I mean, I'm calling it right now. They are getting swept for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, now what? Now what are you going to do? Because you're locked into some contracts. You're in a bad situation. Things are not looking good. You got the other series that's really good is that Clippers Dallas one. I mean, the first game I was shocked that the Clippers just took it to the Mavs.
Without Kawhi.
Like, oh my god. And then Kawhi comes back and the Mavs are like, well, we'll just kick your ass now. It's like, all right, like this is a surprising series right now. So a lot of really good games, and I'm here for them. I'm excited that they're, a lot of them are tied up. And yeah, it's just fun basketball to watch right now.
Yeah, going back to that Sixers series, I want to jump off of what Barkley said. I don't know if you saw the post-game interview with Embiid, where he had his head down, all these reporters around him, and he has his head down the whole interview, if you want to call it an interview. They're asking questions. And he's understandably, really upset about that Game 2 loss. So they gave, the Knicks stole that game at the end. But so disappointed and just so negative with the heads down, blaming the refs for not calling a foul on the inbound pass. Or not getting the timeout, whatever he was complaining about, he was blaming other people, not taking responsibility for whatever they could have done differently, and head down the whole time. That's what Barkley was like. You can't have your head down. You're the leader of this team. You got to have your head up. You have to be the leader. You have to be like, that was a tough break for us. We're going to come back. We're going to win Game 3. We're coming back. We're going back home. We're going to have the advantage, whatever it is. You need a positive spin. You need your head up. You need to be confident. And that's the thing about Embiid, I think his whole career, whenever we've seen him in the playoffs, I mean, half the time he's injured, like that sucks. But the other half of the time, this is the kind of behavior we've seen. Not being a leader, not being a good leader, giving up, being negative. And I think that's why he's never able to take that next step. That's why he's not Giannis. And people keep trying to put Embiid in that same category. I think that was actually the anonymous players. I think Embiid was ahead of Giannis in terms of who you want to start a franchise with, which just boggles my mind. Like, why would you pick that? That's like, I am surprised because there is a mentality part to it. It's not just the statistics you're putting out there and, how you play in the regular season. Like the playoffs is a different game that matters more, and how you deal with adversity and how you lead your teammates is a really important thing that a lot of people push aside, and I think Embiid lacks that.
I completely agree. Joel Embiid is Anthony Davis. They're both very good players, but they lack leadership qualities. And it's the same thing. When Jamal Murray nailed that shot to win the game, and you go to the press conference and they said, "Hey, Anthony Davis, what happened?" Murray made a shot, throws the mic down, leaves. Okay, you kind of look like a little bitch. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, but you do. And then it's the same thing. Embiid, you're going to sit with your head down. Like, really? This is like you want your team to kind of follow you when this is the way you react? Like, the problem with the NBA that, people are going to have is so many times you're seeing these players that are arguing to get calls. Brooke Lopez does it way more than I want it to be. But, have a little bit of like argue and then move on. Like, that's what you got to do. to be like head down, dropping mics, it's bitch behavior, and it's not going to lead to anything. And that's your problem. Like, that's just, yeah, that's the problem with Embiid. It's the problem with Anthony Davis. They're both super talented, but they just can't lead a franchise. And that's their huge problem. I think you just absolutely nailed it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've gone hour 15 here. Anything else you want to add, or should we call it a night?
I think that's it. I mean, game 3 is a big tell. Looking forward to next week. Hopefully we have at least a split series still. But yeah, a lot of tough basketball ahead of us that I don't know. I hope I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not giving up. We're gonna win game 3, game 4. That'll be the test. Calling it right now.
Optimistic. Yes. Big week ahead of you ahead of us for the Bucks. Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to be in your feed every Thursday or Friday. Subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen to your podcast. Give us a review. You can email us with questions, doubledribblebucks@gmail.com. Follow us at PodDDB on Twitter /X. And we'll see you next time. Until then, go Bucks.